I need to tell you something I've never told anyone. Not my sister, not my co-workers, not the school counselor who gave me a sympathetic look last November when I came in to explain why Aliva hadn't been eating her lunch. I smiled and said we were going through a rough patch. I signed the form she slid across the desk, and I walked out and sat in my car, and I cried for 11 minutes before I had to go clock in at the warehouse. I've gotten good at crying in my car, but I'm done keeping this inside, so here it is, all of it. The parts that make me look like a failure, the parts that make me look like a fool, and the part I haven't even fully said out loud yet that I think might be the reason I'm still standing. Let me start on the morning of her birthday. Her name is Aliva. I know it's not a common name. Her mother made it up, or rather, she said she found it in a dream. She woke up one night 7 months pregnant, turned to me in the dark and said, I heard her name. It's Aliva, and I looked at her like she was slightly unhinged, and then I thought about it for about 4 seconds and said, yeah, okay, that's beautiful. That was my wife. She could sell you a dream in the dark and make it feel like morning. She died when Aliva was 8 months old. An aneurysm, no warning, no goodbye. One afternoon she was here, laughing at something stupid I said, and the next morning she was gone. The doctors used words I didn't understand, and I stood there in that hallway holding an 8-month-old who smelled like baby powder, and I actually thought, this must be happening to someone else. But it wasn't. It was happening to me, to us. Aliva is 6 now. She has her mother's exact eyes, these wide, dark, curious eyes that seem to be doing math on everything they see. She's small for her age and she talks a lot and she asks questions that make me feel like I'm being cross-examined by a very short attorney. Daddy, if clouds are just water, why can't we drink them? Daddy, do fish know they're wet? Daddy, when people die, do they get lonely? That last one she asked me on a Tuesday evening while I was making rice and canned beans, which was all we had, and I had to turn away from the stove so she wouldn't see my face. No, baby, I told her, I think they get to be with everyone they ever loved all at once. She thought about that then, even their fish. She seemed satisfied with that, now the gift. About 4 months before her birthday, Aliva and I were at a pharmacy waiting for her cough syrup prescription. There was a display near the register, those spinning racks they put near the checkout to ambush you, and on it was a small stuffed rabbit. White, pink ears, a little satin bow stitched to its chest. Aliva picked it up. She held it gently like it was made of something fragile. She pressed her cheek against it. Daddy, she whispered. This one feels like a hug. It was $34.99. I looked at my wallet, looked at the prescription, looked at the rabbit. We'll come back for her, I said. I promise. Aliva put the rabbit down carefully, reverently almost, and looked up at me with those eyes. She'll wait, she said seriously. I told her to wait. That was 4 months ago. Every week since then she asked about the rabbit. Not in a whining way, not in a demanding way. In this heartbreakingly patient way, like she trusted me completely and just wanted reassurance. Daddy, is the bunny still there? Daddy, will we get her before my birthday? Daddy, I was thinking maybe I should name her Mama. Is that okay? That last one broke something in me that I didn't even know was still whole. I promised her. I looked her dead in the eyes and I said, for your birthday, Aliva, the bunny is your birthday gift, I promise you. She beamed at me like I'd handed her the sun. I had no idea what was coming. Her birthday was on a Saturday. The Thursday before, I was at my second job. I drive for a delivery app on weekday evenings after my shift at the warehouse when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't pick up. I picked up. Is this Marcus Webb? Yeah, this is Dr. Okafor's office calling. We need you to come in tomorrow. The results of your MRI are back and the doctor wants to speak with you in person. I pulled the car over. Can you tell me anything over the phone? I'm sorry, sir, he'd really like to see you in person. I sat there for a while, the phone in my lap, the engine running. Someone knocked on my window, a man wanting to know if I was okay. I waved him off, said I was fine. I wasn't fine. You see, 3 weeks earlier I'd gone to the ER because I kept having these headaches. Bad ones. Behind my left eye like something was pressing from the inside. I'd been ignoring them for 2 months. The way you ignore a check engine light when you can't afford the mechanic. But one night the pain got so bad I pulled over on the freeway and couldn't move for 20 minutes. The ER gave me an MRI and referred me to a neurologist named Dr. Okafor. Nice man, calm voice. The kind of calm that either means everything is fine or everything is very, very not fine. I went to the appointment Friday morning. Aliva was at school. My sister Renee watched her in the afternoons and I'd told Renee I had a work thing. I sat in Dr. Okafor's office and he showed me the scan on his computer. There was something there, behind my left eye. He said words, a lot of words. I caught pieces, meningioma, benign in most cases, We can't be certain without a biopsy. Surgery is likely necessary, the sooner the better. I asked how much surgery would cost without insurance. He paused. I don't have insurance. The warehouse job offers it, but the premium would eat a third of my paycheck, and I've been choosing groceries over paperwork for 2 years. He gave me a number. He also mentioned programs, assistance, payment plans. He was kind about it. He handed me a folder with pamphlets. I thanked him, walked out, sat in my car. I did not cry this time. I just sat very still, and I thought about Aliva, and I thought about her mother, and I thought, not yet. I can't do this yet, not on her birthday week. I drove to work. That night, Thursday night, 1 day before her birthday, I counted what I had. Rent was due in 6 days. I'd been short for 2 months in a row. My landlord had been patient, but the last text he sent me had the energy of a man running out of patience. I had $47 in my checking account. I had $200 in an envelope under my mattress that I'd been saving since January, my emergency fund, which I was aware was a dark joke given my situation. The rabbit cost $34.99. If I bought the rabbit, I'd have $212, not enough for rent, not enough plus groceries, not enough. I sat at the kitchen table, and I did the math 17 different ways, and every single time the math came out the same. I thought about the credit card. Maxed. I thought about my sister. She had 2 kids of her own, and her husband had been laid off in March. I thought about Marcus from the warehouse who owed me $60 from a loan in February. I texted him 4 times. He'd read every message and responded to none of them. And then I thought about the box. There's a shoebox on the top shelf of my closet. I've had it for 6 years. I've opened it maybe a dozen times, always alone, always at night. Inside is everything I have left of my wife. Her wedding ring. I gave it to a jeweler once to get appraised, and then took it back without selling it, feeling like I'd committed a betrayal just by asking. Some photographs. A letter she wrote me on our first anniversary that I've read so many times the fold lines are soft as cloth. A small bottle of her perfume, still half full. I can't bring myself to smell it anymore, because the one time I did I couldn't function for 2 days. And one more thing, a necklace, her mother's necklace, so Aliva's grandmother's necklace, a woman who died before Aliva was born. A thin gold chain with a small pendant, a letter A for her mother's name, Amara. My wife wore it every day of our marriage. I had a jeweler look at it once. He said the gold was real. He said the pendant was old, well made. He said he'd give me $400 for it. I'd laughed and put it back in the box. But Thursday night, sitting at that kitchen table doing the math for the 17th time, I got up. I went to the closet. I took down the box. I held the necklace for a long time. I thought about Aliva. She'll wait. I told her to wait. I thought about the tumor behind my eye, the folder of pamphlets on my passenger seat. I thought about her mother. It's Aliva, in the dark, 7 months pregnant, sure of things the way she was always sure of things. I put the necklace in my jacket pocket. Friday morning, Aliva woke up vibrating with excitement. 1 more day, Daddy, 1 more day. She was wearing her pajamas with the little stars on them, and her hair was everywhere, and she was hopping on her toes, and I picked her up and spun her around and said, 1 more day, baby. Go brush your teeth. She grabbed my face in her small hands. Are you getting her today? I didn't blink. I'm going to take care of everything today. She kissed me on the nose and ran to the bathroom. I drove her to school. She talked the entire way about what she was going to name the rabbit. She'd been going back and forth between Mama and Rosie and had landed, she said very firmly, on Rosie Mama, which covered all the bases. I walked her to the door. Her teacher, Miss Petula, smiled at me. Big birthday tomorrow. Very big, I said. Aliva ran inside without looking back. She always does that, just bolts, full confidence, no goodbye anxiety. Her mother was the same way. When she had somewhere to go, she went. I went to the pawn shop. His name is Darnell. I want to be fair to Darnell. He is my cousin, and for most of my life he has been my closest friend. When my wife died, Darnell was the one who came over every day for 3 weeks. He cleaned my kitchen. He held Aliva while I slept. He sat with me at 2 a.m. when I couldn't stop shaking, and he didn't say anything, just sat there, which was the right thing to do. I love Darnell. I'm also aware that Darnell has a problem. He's not a bad person. He's a gambling person, which is different and also in some ways worse, because he genuinely doesn't mean any harm. He just gets pulled in. He's been in and out of Gamblers Anonymous for 4 years. Sometimes he does really well, sometimes he doesn't. 6 weeks before Aliva's birthday, I lent Darnell $300. He told me his light bill was past due. He cried on the phone, actual tears, I could hear it. I had $300 in a savings account I'd been building toward a security deposit on a better apartment. I sent him $280. I kept $20 because I had to. I want to be clear, he asked for a loan. He said he'd pay me back in 2 weeks. He said, "Cuz I swear on my life." I told myself not to think about the money because it stressed me out. So I didn't. That Friday, the morning I went to the pawn shop, Darnell called me. I thought he was calling to tell me he was sending the money. His name on the screen actually made me feel a flicker of relief. "Hey," he said. He sounded strange, stretched thin. "Hey, man, Marcus, I gotta tell you something." The flicker died. "What happened, Darnell?" He told me. He'd gone to a poker game 3 weeks ago, won some, then lost more. Then chased the loss the way he always chases it, that spiral I've watched happen before. The $280 was gone. He'd been trying to win it back. He'd lost more. "I'm going to get it, cuz. I'm going to get it back to you, I just need a little more time, Darnell." My voice came out flat, dead flat. "Tomorrow is Aliva's birthday." Silence. I know, man, I hung up. I sat in the parking lot of the pawn shop. I thought about my wife's necklace in my pocket. I thought about the MRI folder on my passenger seat. I thought about $47 in my checking account. Then I went inside. The man at the pawn shop was polite. He wore glasses and took the necklace carefully and looked at it under a light. He offered me $180. I said the last jeweler said $400. He shrugged. "That's pawn shops. Take it or leave it." I took $180. I drove to the pharmacy. And then, God, this is the part that still keeps me up at night, the rabbit wasn't there. The display was still there. The spinning rack, same spot. "No rabbit?" I asked the woman at the register. She checked the back. She came out shaking her head. "We sold out of those about 2 weeks ago. We have a similar one." She showed me something that looked vaguely like a rabbit but was clearly a different rabbit, a wrong rabbit, a rabbit that had never told a little girl to wait for it. I drove to 3 other stores, no rabbit. I could have ordered one online, but I'd cancelled my Prime membership months ago and standard shipping would take 5 to 7 days, and tomorrow was her birthday. I sat in the parking lot of the 3rd store and I thought, I sold my dead wife's mother's necklace and I still can't give my daughter the one thing she asked for. And I don't know what broke in me in that moment. I don't know what to call it. I just know that I drove home with $145 in my pocket and nothing in my hands, and I felt like the worst version of every fear I'd ever had about myself. I got home at 6:47 p.m. Her party, if you could call it that, just her and my sister's kids and some juice boxes, was supposed to start at 4. I'd told Renee I had to run an errand and I'd be back soon. I walked through the door. Aliva was on the couch. My sister Renee was in the kitchen doing dishes. The kids had gone home. Streamers were still taped to the wall. Renee had done that. She'd bought streamers and a $3 cake from the grocery store, and I loved her so much for that it physically hurt. Aliva looked up when I came in. She looked at my hands. She looked at my face. I watched her understand. "Hi, Daddy," she said, very quiet. "Hey, baby, happy birthday." "Thank you." She went back to looking at the TV, some cartoon. She wasn't watching it. I could tell because she always mouths along with the voices when she's actually watching. Renee came out of the kitchen and looked at my hands and looked at me, and I saw her jaw tighten. She gave me a look that said, "We will talk about this later," and then she said brightly, "Aliva, go show your dad the drawing you made." "It's okay," Aliva said. "He can see it later." There are sentences that hit you and sentences that hit you in the throat and sentences that hit you somewhere below your sternum where it just sits there. That one sat there. Later I cut the cake. Aliva blew out her candles. She made a wish with her eyes squeezed very shut, and I hoped with every broken piece of me that she was wishing for something I could give her. "What you wish for?" I asked. She opened her eyes, looked at me. "It's a secret," she said, which is what she always said, but this time her voice had a quality I'd never heard in it before. I recognized it because I'd heard it in my own voice for 6 years. It was the sound of protecting someone from the truth. That night I put her to bed. She let me read her the story, Corduroy, her current favorite, about the bear in the department store who wants to be chosen, and she curled up under her covers and looked up at the ceiling. "Daddy, yeah, baby, did you forget?" The question hit me like cold water. "No," I said, my voice was steady. "I'm good at steady. I didn't forget." "Then why?" She stopped. She bit her lip, which she does when she's trying not to cry, which she learned from me. "Never mind." "Aliva," I put my hand on her cheek. "Look at me." She looked at me, those eyes. "I love you more than everything in the world." "Do you know that?" "Yes," she said, but it came out small, like she was trying to believe it. "I'm going to explain everything. I just need a little time, okay?" She nodded, turned over, pulled the covers up. I sat on the edge of her bed for a long time after she fell asleep. What I'm about to tell you, I didn't know this happened until later. Aliva told me herself, eventually. She walked me through it the way you walk someone through a dream you can't quite hold. That night after I thought she was asleep, I went to the kitchen to talk to Renee. Aliva was not asleep, she heard everything. Here's what she told me she heard. She heard Renee say, "Marcus, you have to tell me what's going on, this isn't just about the rabbit." She heard me be quiet for a long time. She heard me say in a voice she told me sounded like a voice she'd never heard from me before, "They found something on the MRI, Renee." She heard Renee stop moving. She heard the silence. She heard me say, behind my eye, "They don't know yet what it is, I have to go back." She heard Renee cry. She said Renee made this small, bitten-off sound, and then Aliva heard her say, "Oh God, Marcus, oh God." She heard me say, "I can't scare her, she's 6. She just turned 6 and his voice broke. Aliva told me this. She said my voice broke like a plate. I sold Amara's necklace, Renee, the one her mom left her. I sold it so I could get Aliva the rabbit, and I still couldn't find it, and I don't know what I'm." She heard me stop. She heard Renee say softly, "Amara's necklace, Marcus, that was supposed to go to Aliva when she was older." We talked about, "I know," I said, "I know." Aliva told me she pulled the covers over her head at that point. She lay in the dark under the covers and she held very still, and she told me that she cried. But she put her whole hand over her mouth so I wouldn't hear. I woke up at 5 am, I couldn't sleep. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, and I opened the MRI pamphlet folder for the first time since I'd gotten it. I read about meningiomas, I read about survival rates, I read about surgical options. I made a list of questions to ask Dr. Okafor. At 6:30 I heard small feet on the floor. Aliva came into the kitchen. She was wearing the star pajamas, her hair was everywhere, her eyes were a little swollen, I noticed, and filed it away and felt sick. She climbed into the chair across from me. She looked at the folder. At the pamphlet spread across the table. "What's that?" she asked. "Just some papers from the doctor," I said. I started stacking them up. "Are you sick, Daddy?" I looked up at her. She was watching me with those eyes, those wide, math-doing eyes. And in them I saw something I wasn't expecting, not fear, not confusion, something older, something that looked, God help me, like she was trying to protect me too. "Why do you ask that?" I said carefully. She looked at the table, traced a scratch in the wood with her finger. "I heard you and Auntie Renee talking," she said very quietly. The kitchen was very still. "What did you hear?" My voice came out gentle. I kept it gentle. She looked up. "Everything." We stayed like that for a moment. Across the table from each other, this tiny 6-year-old and her failing, frightened, stubborn, exhausted father. And then Aliva Webb reached across that kitchen table and put her small hand over mine and said, in a voice that was way too certain for a 6-year-old, "It's okay, Daddy, I don't need the rabbit." That did it. That completely undid me. I made a sound I didn't mean to make. I pulled her across the table and she came scrambling over it into my lap, and I held her and she held me, and we just fell apart together in that kitchen in the early morning light, with the coffee getting cold and the pamphlets on the floor. She kept saying, "It's okay, it's okay, it's okay." And I kept thinking, she's 6, she's comforting me. What am I doing? Who is this person? After a while, when I could talk, I said, "I'm so sorry, baby." "About the rabbit, Daddy." I tried to, "Daddy." She pulled back and looked at my face, and she was so serious it was almost funny. "I know about the necklace." I went still. "You sold Mama's necklace," she said. For me, I couldn't answer. "I know that was really important," she said, and her voice wobbled for just a second. "I know it was Grandma's, I know." "Aliva, I think," she said carefully, "that Mama would have said it was okay. I think she would have said you did the right thing." I don't know how long I cried. I'm not going to estimate. I'll just say it was a while, and Aliva sat in my lap the whole time and patted my shoulder the way I always pat hers. And at some point I laughed because she was so small and so serious and so incomprehensibly her mother's daughter. I went back to Dr. Okafor on Monday. The biopsy confirmed, benign, a meningioma, slow growing in a position that made surgery difficult but not impossible. He recommended we monitor it and discussed a surgical option for later in the year. He connected me with a financial assistance program I didn't know existed for single parents with dependent children. It covered 80% of costs. I almost laughed in his office. All that time I spent not making calls, not asking for help, trying to do the math alone at a kitchen table at midnight. 80%, right there, waiting. The tumor is still there, we're watching it. I have another scan in 3 months. I'm scared still. But scared and paralyzed are different things, and I'm learning slowly at age 28, I'm still learning this, that asking for help is not the same as failing. Darnell called me 2 weeks later. He'd gone back to GA, he was getting help. He sent me $50 and a handwritten note that said, "I know it's not enough. I love you, I'm sorry." I put the note in a drawer, and I'm not sure how I feel about him yet, but I know I'll figure it out. Renee bought Aliva a white stuffed rabbit with pink ears from a different store, not the same rabbit. Aliva studied it for a moment, this very focused appraisal. Then she squeezed it against her cheek. She feels like a hug, Aliva said. She named her Rosie Mama. 3 weeks after her birthday, Aliva asked me something at bedtime. Daddy, can I see the box? She'd never asked before. She knew the box existed the way children know things exist, peripherally, quietly, without being told. What box? I said, testing her. She gave me a look. I got the box. We sat on her bed together and I opened it. I showed her everything, the photos, the letter. I didn't read it aloud. That one's mine, the bottle of perfume. I showed her the empty space where the necklace had been. That was Grandma's, I said. Your mama wore it every day. Aliva touched the empty space. Her small finger traced it. You sold it for me, she said. I was trying to. She thought about this. That means Grandma's necklace was kind of like a gift. But from before for later, I looked at her. Like she was saving it, Aliva said slowly, working it out. And she saved it so that when you needed it for me it would be there. I had no words. Aliva carefully closed the box. She folded her hands on top of it, deliberate, ceremonious. I think, she said, that the necklace was always going to be for me, just not the way we thought. She looked up at me. Right, I pulled her close. Right, I said into her hair, and I meant it. I don't know how or why or what it costs me to believe it, but I meant it. She's asleep now as I write this. I can hear her breathing through the monitor. I still keep the monitor even though she's 6 and she would be humiliated if she knew. Rosie Mama is tucked under her arm. The MRI folder is on the counter. Dr. Okafor's number is in my phone under call him. There's $63 in my account. There's food in the fridge. There's a drawing on the refrigerator that Aliva made on her birthday, the one Renee asked her to show me, the one she said I could see later. I finally looked at it yesterday. It's a picture of 2 people, one tall, one small. Stick figures. She hasn't moved past stick figures yet. But the small one has a big smile and the tall one has a big smile too. And above them, Aliva wrote in her careful first-grade handwriting, "Me and Daddy. We are okay. I don't know what happens next. I don't know about the surgery or the money or the apartment or any of it. I have a daughter who is 6 years old and wise beyond what I deserve and a box on the top shelf of my closet with a hole in it shaped like a necklace. But she's breathing, I'm breathing. And on the refrigerator in crayon, we are okay. I'm choosing to believe her."